And yeah, you can go ahead and push to the next. Yep, there we go. That's me. I found this actually just today. I'll just read it out loud. We spend way too much time worrying if our kids were good enough for a particular college and not enough time wondering if that college was good enough for our kids. Ooh, I thought that was pretty good. It made me kind of think about, you know, sometimes we put so much energy into, you know, I have to go to a good college or this kind of college or whatever, you know, and I would challenge us all to maybe shift our thinking a little bit. And that kind of relates to that idea of finding the right fit, right? So there's lots of good colleges out there, but how do you find the ones that are good fits? Go ahead. This is from a really fascinating website called Less High School Stress. When we're done, if you are we turning in, does this PowerPoint go somewhere? Do you know?
I don't know, but I'll find out.
Okay. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint so you can have the links to click on some of these sites, you're welcome to email me. I'll give you my email address at the end. Anyway, so this is from this really great website, and I'm just going to read this out loud. He says, take challenging courses, work hard, pursue your passions, whatever they may be, but get enough sleep, leave time for fun with family and friends. Stop worrying about every single grade you get. Stop wondering if failure to get straight A's in your really tough classes is going to ruin your future. It's not. Do these things and then create your college list carefully and realistically. You'll be admitted to schools that will challenge you appropriately, that will have many other students who are similarly capable, and that will afford you the same opportunity for a successful and happy future, regardless of whether it's the most selected college you applied to or one of your safety schools. When you look at the Less High School Stress website, one of the things that this Steve Becker does is he talks about the number of high schools that exist in the United States. And then, and there's thousands, right? And then it talks about there's thousands of valedictorians, there's thousands of salutatorians. Those are the people that have the highest grades in the graduating class. And that there's not enough room in all of the Ivy League schools to accommodate students that are the valedictorian and salutatorian of their classes, right? And so then he talks about, then you go, I don't even want to say down a tier, but I've said that. So, you know, then you look at another group of schools and another group of schools. And the point that he is making is that it doesn't really matter where you go to college. It matters what you do when you're there. And it's really cool on that website as well, because he has a tab that says lists. And when you click on that, you see a whole bunch of different careers, a bunch of occupational areas. And you can see where people in those areas that have very prestigious jobs where they went to college, where they did their undergraduate, and there's a lot of diversity in those schools that are mentioned there. So I really want to challenge us to think about, you know, a good school or the best school doesn't mean one that's highly rejected. Okay. So this slide talks about some different elements of fit. And so these are kind of like no-brainers, right? So when I'm talking with students, you know, a lot of times that's one of our first conversations is, you know, where geographically would you feel comfortable? Do you want to be in a place where there's polar bears or palm trees? Do you want to be in the United States? What about that state to the north called British Columbia? What about other countries? You know, maybe consider the UK, you know, blah, 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 whatever. So that can be a screen. And sometimes I have students that are like, I hate hot weather. And I'm like, perfect. That cuts, you know, part of the country. So we don't have to think about those states anymore. And then one thing to think about as well is ease of travel. You know, when you're going to wherever it is, are you hopping in the car? Are you getting on the train? Are you getting on the plane? You know, how does that whole thing work? I just got invited. This is like, I'm confessing my laziness to you. I got invited yesterday to go on a college tour of some schools, the Culinary Institute of America, Marist, West Point, and some other school, Bard. But you have to fly in, and then you got to take a taxi, and then you got to take the train. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So ease of travel affects me as well. Campus culture and values, and what I mean by residential and social, like what is it like to live on campus there? What are the housing options that are available to students? Are you required to live on campus? Do you live off campus? You know, a lot of schools will have housing requirements where you live on for the first 1 or 2 years. And the reason why they do that is because they know that it helps students get connected to the community. So that's something that affects their retention rates. And then social, what is there to do for fun? When you look at like the clubs and activities, are there things there that are of interest to you? That's a good thing to look at as well. Cost of school. I know there's other sessions here tonight that are related to paying for college, and so I won't, go into all of that. But I do want you to be aware that when you are on a college's website and you look at the cost of attendance, there will be a number there that will make you fall out of your chair, right? But that is what I call the sticker price. It's like when you go buy a car, you're usually not going to pay the price that's on that sticker on the car, because a lot of schools offer merit scholarships that have nothing to do with your financial situation. And some schools offer need-based aid as well. And the harder a school is to get into, the less merit scholarships they're going to offer. And sometimes that's surprising to people because they think, well, I'll get into Stanford and they'll give me money to come and, whatever. And it's like, Stanford doesn't need to give anybody money to come unless they have money. And schools that are dedicated to that, it's great that they're in the position to be able to do that. Academic programs, you may have ideas about, I might like to study psychology or business or engineering or art or, whatever. So looking at those particular academic programs, of course, is important to do as well. What are the classes like? And one of the things that I talk with my students about is, for example, if I have a student who says, I want to study biology, I'm thinking maybe about going to medical school. Well, when you look at biology departments at various colleges, they're going to look pretty similar. There's going to be test tubes, there's going to be lab coats, there's going to be microscopes. And when you look at the classes, you'll see that they'll be fairly similar as well. Where it differs is research. And when you're on a biology website, there'll be a tab that says research, and that's where it gets super interesting. And that's how colleges differentiate themselves, because they have different research focuses that you can be involved with. Access to professors is something that I think is very important, especially if you think you're going to medical school, because you're going to need 6 or 7 letters of recommendation for medical school. And I hear repeatedly, I'm a big blood donor. And so I always chat with my pals here at the Blood Works place when I go in, and I'm like, a lot of them are on kind of a medical school track. I'm like, okay, where'd you go to school? It's like, I'm so snoopy and nosy. But, one of the things that those techs have told me about the UW is that it's really hard, even in upper division classes, to get to know your professors. Like, you really got to make the effort to do that. So if going into a gigantic university that you're going to have to be really good at self-advocating, that's a good thing. Undergraduate academic advising and career services. Who's going to help you figure out what classes you need to take? Who's going to help you figure out this class will go for this requirement, and it also is related to my major? So academic advising, we know there's a really strong correlation between staying in college and the quality of academic advising that's there. And then career services, like right now, what's probably on your mind is, how do I get into school? But it's important to think about, and what's going to happen when I go to get out of school as well. And then that last point, I think, is pretty understandable. All right, so this is from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. NACEweb.org is the website. And when I visit colleges and we have somebody from the Career Center who comes and talks to us about the services that are at that school, they always are talking about, this is a study that's been going on where this organization communicates with employers and says, what is it that you're looking for in college graduates? So these are a variety of things that you can see that are important. You know, how well does a student do, or an employee do, verbal, written, active listening, critical thinking, how good at problem solving are they, using good judgment, being proactive, equity and inclusion, how actively do they contribute to equitable practices and advocate for inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, open to new technologies. So what we don't see here is employers want somebody with straight A's who can just follow directions, right? And sometimes when I work with high school students, I meet those people who are just, what do I have to do to get an A? What do I have to do to get an A? And it's like the curiosity is kind of just squished out of them. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy, and it's not what employers are looking for either. Okay, so you all have the Sizing Yourself Up survey handout. I don't want you to do it right now, but this is a great tool, and it comes from this book, which is called The Fisk Guide to Colleges. And if you are a junior in high school, or you know a junior in high school, I highly recommend that you get this book, because like it says on the slide, there's a short overview of, like today when I looked, it said 320 colleges. So I randomly opened it up. This is a school called Pomona College, which is in a state to the south of us called California. And you can see it starts here and it goes here and there. So every college is about 2.5 pages. So what I ask my students to do is I turn the author's name into a verb. I ask them to fisk their schools. And the way that they do that is they take 2 different colored highlighters, and when they're reading about one of the schools, they have one color highlighter is, oh, I like this, and the other color highlighter is, you know, that sounds terrible. And it's a really great way to have a visual where students start to see what their preferences and priorities are. So I would highly encourage you to get that book. This survey is in that book as well. I think this is a really fun thing to do because there's 30 different short statements here, and students, you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 with those. I think it's fun, you know, as a college counselor, fun for if you are a parent or a trusted adult of someone here or not here, you can do it how you think your student would answer, and then students, you do it for what's true for you, and then get together and compare your answers. It can be a great way to begin some dialogue on this. The College Navigator is a website that's brought to us by the U.S. Department of Education. And I like it because it is fairly objective. There are some, like if you just Google what college should I go to, or what college should I go to quizzes, or something like that. There are some sorting tools that colleges can pay money to, so they always show up on the list. And the College Navigator is not one of those. It's brought to us by the U.S. Department of Education. So we just hope there's never a government shutdown or that website goes down. The Supermatch College Search is contained within Naviance. Does everybody know what Naviance is? Okay, great. And if you don't know what Naviance is, talk to your student about it. And student, if you don't know what Naviance is, talk with your school counselor about that. But Supermatch is another tool, like a sorting tool that's in there. The Colleges That Change Lives is a group of about just a little over 40 schools. And Whitman is in that book. Whitman College, University of Puget Sound is in that. Willamette University down in Salem is in that. And they're colleges that might not have big name recognition because they're smaller schools and they tend not to have big sports teams that are on national TV, which is how we hear about a lot of different schools. And they do an excellent job at the undergraduate level. The person that wrote the book did stealth college research and identified these really great schools. When I first got that book over 25 years ago, I looked at the names of the schools and I'm like, well, this is dumb. I haven't even heard of half of the schools in this book. And over time, I've been able to visit the majority of those schools, and guess who was dumb? Not the book. And then talk to people who have been to college and see, what they have to say about their experience and what the process was that they went through to choose their school. What's next? Oh, yeah, I know what's next. So this is just a screenshot of what part of the College Navigator website looks like. And you can see here on the left-hand side, there's variables that you fill in. And you can put in multiple states and geographic areas, and then you get to search for different majors, public, private, bachelor's, and then it talks about undergraduate student enrollment. There's a lot of really good stuff here. So that's just a partial visual of that. So I think it's really great when you're looking at, starting your college search to include campus visits as a part of that process. And we're super lucky because we live in an area where it's pretty easy to drive to some very different schools. So even if I just think about Seattle, I think about there's that school that's purple and starts with a W something, Husky, whatever. There's that school, right? Big public research university, fabulous opportunities. There's another school called Seattle University. That's a private school. It's Roman Catholic, run by an order of people that call themselves Jesuits. They're very committed to social justice and being men and women for others. Fabulous computer science program, nursing, education, lots of great things. Seattle Pacific University is another small private university as well. You got University of Puget Sound, Pacific Lutheran down in Tacoma. So you don't have to say, we have to get on an airplane or, we have to, spend hundreds of dollars and get hotel rooms, all of that stuff. Go and do some local visits first and you can see what's appealing to you. It's important you sign up for the tour and the information session before you go. If you're going to go visit over spring break, you want to make those appointments or those reservations as soon as possible, because a lot of high schools all over the country have the same spring breaks, and those tours and info sessions fill up. I think it's great to have a meal on campus so you can spy a little bit. You can see what kind of food they have there, and do they have soft serve ice cream at breakfast as well as at lunch and dinner. But it's also a time where you can talk with students. So I do the thing where, I'm at the salad bar and I turn to the kid next to me and I'm like, hey, do you go to school here? And they're like, yeah, whose mother are you? And I'm like, and I just say, I'm Claire, I'm a college counselor from the Seattle area. Tell me one thing you like and one thing you don't like about this school. So I'm not like, sit down, we have to have therapy, you have to talk to. No, it's just give me some quick feedback. When you take the campus tour, the tour guide will be a student and that tour guide is trained. Okay, so they got the company spiel down. That's why it's nice to talk to other students. What do you like? What do you not like? And what do you wish you knew? When you were in your college process, what do you wish you knew? The NISI Pocket Guide is this, and everybody should have one of these. So when you open this up, what you see is there are questions, suggested questions related to the topics on each page. So that can be helpful as well. College representatives visit our high schools in the fall, and a lot of times the people that are visiting our high schools are the first person to read your application. Do you think it would be good to go and sit in on their session when they come to your school? Correct. Yes, I heard that. Nobody said it, but yeah. So those reps are important to have a bit, you know, you don't have to be their BFF, but it's good to go make the effort. A lot of times they will have cards that you fill out that then they take those back to their office and input them where they're tracking, you know, are you demonstrating interest in their school? There are college fairs. The next one that's coming up, PNACAC stands for the Pacific Northwest Association for College Admission Counseling. And that fair is happening April 27th at Seattle U. If you go to pnacac.org, that website, you will see a tab across the top that says college fairs. And when you click on that, you can see the spring college fairs. You'll be able to click on Seattle and you'll be able to see a list of colleges that are registered to be at that fair. And there's the NACAC, the National Association for College Admission Counseling. They always do their big fair 2 days in the fall. Those dates aren't available yet, but they happen. One is a school day and one is a weekend day. You register online for those. So when you visit colleges, I highly encourage you to either set up a meeting with a professor prior to you going, or if you're not able to do that, after the tour is over, I say walk the halls and read the walls. When you are in academic buildings on college campuses, you're going to see big posters of student work, examples of the research that students have done. And then whether you have an appointment or not, let's say that you don't, and you're walking around in the engineering building and there's a professor sitting in their office or working away, but their door is open. Guess what you do? I say, hi, my name's Claire. I'm a college counselor from the Seattle area. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? I've never had go, you know, slam the door in my face. These are the questions that I ask them. And it is very helpful because you can get some really good information. So these, of course, these first four are really about that department and what is available, what is it all about, including where are people getting jobs when they're finished with their degree here. And then the last one, what do you like working at this school, living in this town? That can give you a broader perspective. And frequently professors will talk about, I really like my colleagues because we're all, you know, loving the students or, you know, whatever that is. But this gives you really good information for you to decide, is this something I'd be interested in studying? When my daughter was going through her college process, we did this, and at the end of 5 schools, she decided she didn't want to major in what she thought she wanted to major in at the time. But through these conversations, she came to an understanding about that. So it was super helpful for her as well. A lot of colleges on their applications will have a question that says, why do you want to go to our school? And so when you say, when I was able to visit, or when I emailed with Dr. Smarty Pants from the School of Engineering, she told me about blah, 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 blah. That's good because it's demonstrating to the college that, you know, you've done your due diligence, you're applying on purpose, not just because you look really good in a purple hat with a W on it, right? Okay, next. So let's see, what do I want to say to you about this? I think that the first one, be a kind and supportive friend, is really important because sometimes people have peer groups where there can be unhealthy or toxic competition. And sometimes with students that I work with, they'll talk with me about their friend group being so stressed out, and it gets to be a contest. How stressed out are you? Well, I'm so stressed out because blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm more stressed out because I have blah, 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 and I'm applying to 27 colleges, blah, 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 you know, and it's like, you know, that doesn't need to be a part of the narrative. So think about, how can you be a kind and supportive friend? If you have a friend who says, hey, I'm applying to Kalamazoo College in Michigan, you don't go, what? I've never heard of that school before. You're like, wow, I've never heard of Kalamazoo. Tell me more about that school. So think about that. This kind of the what'd you get? You know, you get your PSAT scores back. What'd you get? It does not matter. You are not your scores. You are not your grades. You are a whole person. Your job, I say this to my students all the time, your job is to be the best you that you can be. This is really important to talk with parents about parameters they have for you. Sometimes parents will say, I really need you to stay in the Pacific Northwest. This is what our budget is for a year of college. Setting those parameters is going to save a lot of this in the spring of senior year. College admission counselors want to hear from you. One of the things that all of my juniors are doing now is they're drafting an email that they're going to be sending out to admission counselors with 3 questions that they have to ask. Yeah, okay, next. Okay, I think I'm going to skip this one because you're probably going to know this stuff already. So let's go ahead on to the next one. So parents, that first bullet point, I talk about put your ego to the side. You know, my self-worth as a mom is not wrapped up in where my kid goes to college, right? So I have 2 kids that are both adults now. My first child went to a school, he was in their 3rd graduating class of the university. There was no alumni association. There was no homecoming. There was no newspaper. There was no blah, 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 blah. You know, and I had to put my ego to the side to say, you know, because it's like when people say, oh, Claire, where are your kids going to college? I'm like, a school you've never heard of in your life. You know, he has a master's degree, works as a fisheries biologist for the federal government in Canada. It worked out pretty well. Put your ego to the side. You know, there's some terrible things on Facebook, but there is Grown and Flown Parents, and that's a pretty good Facebook page for obviously parents. Be a safe haven for your child and their friends. And what I mean by that is don't be talking about college all the time because students get that. There's so much pressure around college in this community. Be a safe haven. Talk about other things. How about those Mariners? That's always a good one, right? Yeah, just be a safe haven for them. There are some books there. I also want to mention, so The Truth About College Admission, this is a great one. Rick Clark is one of the authors, and he's the Dean of Admissions at Georgia Institute of Technology. And he also has a blog that I have linked on my PowerPoint that is very good. It's very good for parents and students and counselors as well. This is a book that I forgot to put on, and then I sent my slides. I'm like, oh, I can't change my slides now. But it's called College Match, and it's by Steve Antonoff. If I was the boss of you, which I'm not, but these are the 2 books that I would tell you to get. So College Match, a blueprint for choosing the best school for you. Steve Antonoff is a fabulous person, and then the Fisk Guide. And Ted Fisk is the author, and he's a grumpy old man, but we still like him. Okay, done. Next.
Your slide now.
What?
Just put it in a slide. They're not presentations.
Okay. Watch out. Here's the watch out. Invitations in the mail that look beautiful are very flattering. You get these things from like the National Society of High School Scholars or just stupid stuff. And it comes in the envelope is beautiful fonts. And you open it up and it says, this is a really important thing for you to spend $3,000 on for a week this summer to do this thing. And it looks really good to colleges. Lies, lies, pack of lies. So be careful. And no kidding, sometimes they even will include a bumper sticker. My child went to la, 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 la. And when I'm behind those cars, I'm like, sucker. So be careful with that. If you get that kind of stuff in the mail, connect with your school counselor and say, what's up with this? So you can know about that. Also in the fall of 12th grade, you students will get emails from colleges that you've never heard of before, and they will be encouraging. They'll say, we've already started your application for you and your name and address.
This concludes session A. Session B will begin at 7:20.
Okay, so this is a way for colleges to increase their applications so they can deny more students so they look like they're hard to get into. Instead of smoking mirrors. College rankings, be careful. Don't rely on those unless you know what methodology they're using, what they're really ranking. Colleges that you care about, open their emails and click around, because colleges are tracking how much time you spend on those emails and where you're clicking. And let's go to, you're excited about going to college. Think about what's a good school for you. What you do in college is a better predictor of happiness and success than where you go to college. There's the websites and there's the end. So here's my email address, Claire@collegeplanninghelp.com. You email me and I'll send you the slide deck, no problem.